محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, and to all of you, my brothers and sisters. Inshallah, you are all well. This is a live broadcast being brought to you by Muhibban al-Mahdi Youth Foundation and the Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif awareness campaign. Inshallah, you are all well. My deepest congratulations to all of you on the birth anniversary of Imam al-Hujjah al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. Inshallah, you are all keeping well. You are all keeping safe. Thank you for joining us on our second live broadcast of our celebrations, inshallah. Just a few important announcements to make. First of all, people have been inquiring about different books about Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif, which you could be reading while in the state of self-isolation. I just want to inform all my brothers and sisters out there that on our website, imacuk.info/books, there are over 60 books that you can read about Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif, or on a topic relating to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, and also on imacuk.info/videos, you will be able to access over 150 English lectures about Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. So inshallah, you can benefit while in self-isolation, while in this quarantine period, by building a relationship with Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, by reading about him, listening about him, and inshallah, by the blessings of this time, by the blessings of the month of Shabaan, we can increase our ma'rifah of Imam Zaman Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. Without further ado, first of all, I would like to introduce Brother Kazim to recite Ziyat Ali Yasin so that we can all collectively say our salams to our blessed Imam. Can we please welcome him with a loud salawat in your homes? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبألها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سلام على آل ياسين. السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آيات. السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه. السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقه. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته. السلام عليك يا طالع كتاب الله وترجمانه. السلام عليك يا في آلاء ليلك وأطراف نهارك. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده. السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه. السلام عليك أيها العلم المنصور والعلم المسبوب والغوث والرحمة الواسعة وعدا غير مكذوب. السلام عليك حين تقوم، السلام عليك حين تقعد، السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين، السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنط، السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد، السلام عليك حين تحلل وتكبر، السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر، السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي، السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى، السلام عليك أيها الإمام المأمون، السلام عليك أيها المقدم المأمول، السلام عليك بجوامع السلام، أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله، لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله، وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليا أمير المؤمنين حجته، والحسن حجته، والحسين حجته، وعلي بن الحسين حجته، ومحمد بن علي حجته، وجعفر بن محمد حجته، وموسى بن جعفر حجته، وعلي بن موسى حجته، ومحمد بن علي حجته، وعلي بن محمد حجته، والحسن بن علي حجته، وأشهد أنك حجة الله، أنتم الأول والآخر، وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا، وأن الموت حق، وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق، وأشهد أن النشر حق، والبعث حق، وأن الصراط حق، والمرصاد حق، والميزان حق، والحشر حق، والحساب حق، والجنة والنار حق، والوعد والوعيد بهما حق، يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم وسعد من أطاعكم، فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما أسخطتموه والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم آمين آمين.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Jazakumullah khair, Brother Qasim, for that beautiful recitation. Inshallah, we have all collectively said a beautiful salam to the Imam of our time, Imam al-Hujjah, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah sharif. This ziyarah has been narrated by the Imam himself, and he states that if you wish to turn your face towards Allah and towards us by the means of us, recite the following ziyarah. And the ziyarah of Ali Yasin is a means of turning towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning towards Ahlul Bayt, towards the Imam of our time, and seeking means through the Imam of our time for the fulfillment of our hajat. And inshallah, we can all benefit from that in our own homes, and it's recommended to recite this regularly, inshallah. So next, I would like to invite our special guest, Sister Rebecca Masterton. Sister Rebecca Masterton has blessed us with her attendance in the Ladies' Convention twice now in honor of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra and her birth, and we have benefited greatly from her presence. She's a British Islamic scholar, educator, public speaker, academic, author, television presenter, and philosopher of Shia Islam. She has written short stories, and a collection of those stories has published entitling Passing Through the Dream to the Other Side, and hopefully we can all benefit from these books, inshallah. So without further ado, please welcome Sister Rebecca Masterton with the loudest of your salawats within your homes. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Thank you very much, Sister Fizza. Assalamu alaikum to all who are listening and tuning in on this very special occasion of the Wilad Arif. And of course, we are in very different circumstances from what we may be used to experiencing. So I wanted to begin by saying to people who may be tuning in that let's not get into panic, let's not get into fear. Some brothers have been posting up accounts of plagues that appeared, you know, in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, you know, in the time of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. So there have, you know, these kinds of occasions have arisen before, and we need to just have greater sabr and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get us through this period, inshallah. You may hear some recitation going on in the background, so apologies if that's interrupting my speaking. It should stop in about 5 minutes. So I'm just going to start, inshallah, with my talk tonight, which is inshallah looking at the role of women in the time of the occultation of the Imam of our time, Ajjalallah Farajah Sharif. And I was particularly thinking about, you know, looking at some examples of the women who were living in the time of Imam Zaman, Ajjalallah Farajah Sharif. And so I wanted to pick, first of all, the women who are not very well known. One of those being Hudayth, the mother of Imam Hassan al-Askari, alayhi salam, and then Hakima, his aunt, excuse me, I might have to get some water in a minute, and so as you start coughing just when you need to start speaking, and then of course Narjis, his wife. Now, if we think about the situation of these ladies who are not very often spoken about, they were living again in very tense and difficult times. We, at the moment, with the coronavirus going on, and of course, as I've heard throughout the community, you know, the community has been hit by deaths from this virus. And again, you know, mothers are having to deal with having the children indoors. It's a very different situation from what we're used to. But if we look at how the women who were around and were involved in the life of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, we look at their behavior, you know, this can be an example of how we too can cope with a testing time. So I'm going to, inshallah, first of all, talk a little bit about who they were. And then after that, inshallah, we're going to think about how this applies to our day and age. So first of all, we have, her name was Hudayth, and she was Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam's wife and Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam's mother. And as the sources say, she was actually an executor of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam's will. She administered his endowments and charities, and she was also a medium between Imam Mahdi alayhi salam and the people. So, you know, she would have conveyed messages from the people to Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. So again, that shows that she was highly respected, highly trusted, reliable, and of course also, you know, conveying messages to the Imam and from the Imam back to the people as well. And so she was Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam's grandmother, and as the sources say, because she was his grandmother, she came to be known as Jadda, you know, meaning grandmother, and she is buried and Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhim salam. So she was also, as is the situation with a lot of the wives of the Imam, with regard to the kind of women that the Imams chose to marry, she was also a servant woman. So what is interesting, if we think about the status of Bani Hashim, you know, the norm perhaps would have been, because they were known as a noble family, for them to marry women from other noble Arab families, you know, from Mecca or from Medina or around Mecca. But instead, when we look at a lot of the Imams, many of the mothers of their children were women who had been brought into the house. They were servant women. So this lady, as she came to be known, Jadda, Imam al-Hadi's wife, Imam Zaman alayhi salam's grandmother, was also, or had been, a servant woman. And so, you know, again, her character would have been observed and seen. And of course, she had the great honor of marrying the Imam of her time. And the children she had with Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam were Imam Hassan al-Askari, and they had then 3 other sons and a daughter as well. So she also became involved in the very difficult situation for Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, when, as it says, while she was on Hajj, Imam Hassan al-Askari had sent her on Hajj. She heard that he had passed away, and she left Medina for Samarra. And then she heard that her other son, as he was known, Ja'far al-Kadhab, Ja'far the liar, was claiming the position of imamate for himself. He had taken his father's funds and heritage. And so she actually went to the Qadi, and the Qadi, as the sources say, supported her position. And so the heritage that Ja'far al-Kadhab had taken from his father was taken from him, and but she still actually maintained his upkeep after he'd had everything taken away from him. Of course, he was still her son, so she actually maintained his living after he had, been discovered as a liar and someone who was just attempting to get power. So Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, he had appointed his mother as the executor of his will, and as it says, the administrator of his endowments and charities. So the sources say that there was a particular man called Ahmed ibn Ibrahim, and he said that he visited Hakima, who was Imam Hassan al-Askari's sister in Medina, and he talked with her. It says, the sources say he talked with her about some secret issues. So again, this shows that the women of the time, the trusted women who were within the family of the imams, again, they were involved in conversations with regard to the safety of the imam. They were trusted enough to manage their financial affairs, and they also intervened to try to protect the imamate. So this shows that they had a lot of wisdom, and they had a lot of courage, and and good judgment as well. So this person, Ahmad ibn Ibrahim, he says that he visited Hakima, and he said he asked her who she takes as an imam, and she said, I take so the son of Imam Hassan al-Askari, and she named him. And then Ibn Ibrahim, he says, did you see him or hear about him? And she said, I heard about him from Imam Hassan al-Askari in a letter he wrote to his mother. And then Ibn Ibrahim, he asks Hakima, where is the child? And she said, he's in hiding. He said, so who should the Shia go to? Who should they seek refuge with? And she said, they should seek refuge with his grandmother, with this lady who was called Jadda. And then Ibn Ibrahim, he says, who should I follow? Someone who appointed a woman as his executor? And Hakima said, Imam Hassan al-Askari followed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, who apparently addressed his will to his sister Sayyidah Zainab bint Ali salam alayha, in order to save Imam Sajjad alayhi salam's life. And she said, and then Hakima said to Ibn Ibrahim, you are an informed person. Have you not heard in hadiths that the ninth son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is alive, while his heritage will be, his inheritance will be distributed? So again, Sheikh al-Tusi in Kitab al-Ghaiba, he says that Imam Hassan al-Askari appointed his mother as executor of his will to hide the fact that his son had been born. So this was an issue that had arisen among the Shia, that it was known, if you read the sources, some of the dispute among the Shia at the time of the birth of Imam Zaman alayhi salam was that how could a son be born, since Imam Hassan al-Askari has had all of his inheritance, divided up. He hasn't passed it on to anybody. And the person who was responsible for dividing up his inheritance was his mother. And the answer to that is, of course, that they were trying to hide the fact that Imam Hassan Askari had actually had a son. So we can see that, as we know, during the latter part of the period of the Imams under the Abbasid dynasty, which had started during the lifetime of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, we know that the Imams, each Imam was imprisoned for longer and longer periods. They were surrounded by spies, and it was very difficult to know who could be trusted. And of course, in this time, if you just put a foot wrong, or you said the wrong thing, then you could very well risk the life of your Imam. So we can see that this particular lady, Hudayth, otherwise known as Jadda, was trusted enough to, like I said again, have good judgment, to have the wisdom to manage the affairs of her son. So let's also now then turn to Lady Hakima. So she's, again, someone that we don't really hear about much when we're talking about the history of the Imams. And she was the sister of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. Now we know that in the Shi'i tradition, there are different accounts of the identity of the wife of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. And we know that according to some accounts, she was a princess that had been brought from Byzantium, and where at the time there was the Eastern Roman Church in Byzantium, which is now where Turkey is. So we have this story in the sources about how she was a princess who had been taken from Byzantium. But as the historians say, this narration about her identity and about her being a Byzantine princess is only in one of the sources, one or two sources. And actually the majority of the sources that talk about the identity of the mother of the Imam of our time, Ajwalallah Faraj Sharif, say that she was most likely from Nubia. She was, again, a lady who had been brought into the house as a servant woman. And again, she was someone who would have been trusted enough and discreet enough, literally, to be able to give birth to the narrations circulating that Imam al-Mahdi will be the 12th Imam. Then we know that at this time his life was in much greater danger. So of course the mother of this particular Imam would have had to have been, again, extremely discreet and able to deal with what nowadays we would term as a very, very stressful situation. If we think about how stressful it is enough for many women to go through a pregnancy, they may not be feeling well, and they're managing all sorts of different responsibilities. If we can think about what it was like for Narjis, the mother of the Imam of our time, Ajwalallah Faraj Sharif, to be in this situation where she knows that she is going to be conceiving such an important person. Nowadays, we would, in modern terms, we would say that is extremely stressful. Like, can I bear that mentally? Like, how am I going to kind of deal with this responsibility? And not only that, but I, as the mother of this Imam, I have to keep his identity secret. And there's this, possibility that we may, be discovered. So first of all, if we go to Lady Hakima, the sister of Imam al-Hadi, she, so in fact, Narjis, who became the mother of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, was the servant woman of Lady Hakima. And so there is a narration that says, I went to see Hakima Khatun after the demise of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam to ask her about the Hujjah and the confusion in which people had split many ways. She said to me, sit down. I sat down and she said, "O Muhammad, verily Allah Azza wa Jal does not leave the earth without a divine proof, be he a speaking one or a silent one. He has not put it in tune of distinction for Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhim salam, and to mark their superiority, lest there will be someone claiming to be their equal on the earth. Allah Azza wa Jal gave excellence to the progeny of Hussein over the progeny of Hassan, as he gave excellence to the progeny of Harun over the progeny of Musa, though Musa was a divine proof over Harun. And this excellence is for his progeny until Judgment Day." And then Lady Hakima says, "There must be a trial for the Ummah, in which falsifiers will fall into doubt, and in which verifiers will find salvation, lest the people will have an argument against Allah after the prophets. This trial has occurred after the demise of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam." So we can see again, you know, the way she is talking. Here is someone who is coming to discuss with her, and, you know, again, they say that this whole period of who was to figure out, you know, who is the next Imam, it was called the period of confusion, especially because, you know, I mean, it was very, very difficult to get information out to the people that needed it. And there were, of course, false claimants to being the Imam as well. So here we have someone coming to Lady Hakima, the sister of Imam al-Hadi, and they're asking her, you know, for guidance. You know, what do we do in this situation? And we can see from the way she's speaking that, again, she had been educated in the way of Imamate, you know, in the way of Islam, and she is actually, you know, educating this person and giving a rational argument as to why the situation is as it is at that time. And so she says, you know, the people are going to be tested. So way back, you know, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he talked about how the Shia, all the Imams have talked about actually how the Shia are going to be tested. And so she says again, this is a period of trial and test. Now that Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam has passed away, we have now entered this period of imtihan, this period of trial and test, of bala even. And so this person says to her, "My lady, did Imam Hassan al-Askari have a son?" And she said, "If the Imam did not have a son, who is the divine proof, the Hujjah after him? Considering I told you that Imamate will not be in two brothers after Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhim salam." So this person said, "My lady, tell me about the birth of my master and his occultation." She said, "Yes, there was a servant girl of mine called Narjis." I said, "My master, I will send her to you." And he said, "No, aunt, on the contrary, I wonder at her." And she said, "What makes you wonder?" And he said, "She will give birth to a boy who is much dignified before Allah, who will fill the earth through him with equity and justice, just as it was fraught with corruption and oppression." So she said, "I will send her to you in that regard." Hakima, send Narjis to my son. I said, "My master, I came for this person to seek your permission." Sorry, for the lady, Allah as well desired to give you and to put a stake for you in the good. So she essentially, you know, it is this servant lady who's in her house, um, in order to be married. And so two ladies, Hudayth, and then we have Lady Hakima. And then if we think about, again, like I said, the role of Narjis, there are, of course, we know about many narrations about her, how, as we say, there was not any sign of pregnancy in Narjis. And, you know, also she had to be in hiding from the people. And there's a saying as to why she had to be in hiding. So again, Lady Hakima said, her example is the similitude of the mother of Musa. Pregnancy did not appear to her, and none knew of it until the time of delivery, because Pharaoh was cutting the abdomens of pregnant women in search of Musa, and this is like Musa. So Lady Hakima says, I was constantly watching her until the time of dawn. She was sleeping before me and was not moving from one side to the other. When it was the end of the night near the dawn, she got up nervously. And then she began, she gave birth, and she was about to give birth, and she says to Lady Hakima, the affair of which my master has informed you has approached. So these ladies, the three of them, were living in times of trouble and fear and difficulty. But we can see, and especially this is relevant to us today, with what is going on in our society, especially with the coronavirus, with a lot of theories as to where this virus comes from. And not only that, but we are living in a time of tyranny as well in so many forms. So these ladies were also living in this time of tyranny, and their lives were constantly at risk, but they had the wisdom and the sabr to manage the affairs with which they were entrusted. If these ladies had not been trustworthy and had not, you know, kept a cool head and had not managed to arrange affairs as they were asked to do, then, you know, things would have gone very differently. So we see how there requires within the community, we can learn from this that it is required that within the community, there needs to be cooperation between the men and the women. We need to have, you know, the men having good leadership skills and intelligence and discretion, and the women also. So we need to have good communication between the men, a form of cooperation. Another help all of these ladies that they were informed of the political situation in which they lived. And I've said this before in previous talks, that if we are thinking about how we are going to deal with this day and age in which we are living, and if we look at the women who were in the lives of the Ahl, who were in the life, we mentioned Lady Fatima Zahra said, you know, all aware of the situation of the Imam of their time. They were all aware of what was going on in terms of politics, and they were behave and conduct themselves. So this is very, very important for us today, I would say, more than ever, that which means that we need to encourage the women in our community to be well read in history and in politics, of course, self-included, need to be much better informed about the narrations of Akhir Zaman, so that we can get a better understanding of the day and age in which we are living, and the very fact that you know, the signs of Akhir, the confirmation that this message of Islam is true, because now we have, of course, so many young people getting persuaded that Islam is something of the past, it's obsolete, it's no longer relevant, and you know, that you need to now become just a cog in the wheel. You just need to become, you know, like all of these kind of homogenized human beings we've got around the world, working economic system that we're in. When we look at the predictions about Akhir Zaman, we can see that foresaw. And this is a confirmation, like I said, that the message of Islam is a true message, and that actually we can gain a lot more wisdom and understanding of how to behave in this day and age when we look at these narrations. So again, another point that I wanted to make is that to think about how it's relevant in our day and age. One point that I really wanted to stress is that particularly, you know, it's not just Muslims in the West, I think it's Muslims all around the world today. There is this great pressure, you know, the world is a system. We think about the main companies that are dominant across the world. Everybody is having to be a part of this system. And the focus of most parents, let's just focus on the mothers, the focus of most mothers is to try to get their children to excel within this system. But from what I'm seeing of young people that I teach, and probably again many of you can relate to this, a lot of the young girls, let's say again teens upwards, are suffering from immense stress from today's way of life and from this kind of cold, heartless, mechanical, mechanized system in which we're all living. That, you know, they can actually see through the system in which we're living. They can see that this system that we're living in is not Islamic, and yet they are being pressured to be a part of it. We have a lot of girls who are suffering from depression, as I heard also from other people. It's quite common for a lot of girls to even resort to cutting themselves because they are so stressed. As women in the community, in preparing our girls for the coming of the Imam of our time, Ajallah Faraj Sharif, and for that day and age, we actually need to I've just received a message, yeah, so we'll finish in 5 minutes. We actually need to train our girls that there is another system. The system of Imam Zaman alayhi salam is a different system from, you know, what we are actually having to force ourselves to live in our society. So I'll just wrap it up there. I'm sorry if the connection has not been very good. I hope that some of the points I was making were picked up, and inshallah, you know, we'll have more of these discussions in future, inshallah. So thank you for listening, and we'll tune in again, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Rebecca Masterton. Very enlightening discussion. You were right when you said that we don't really discuss the lives of the ladies that were present in the time of the Imams. we can learn so much from their examples and what they did, and they were the pillars of their society, the pillars for the women who used to come to them for their issues and for their questions. And the Imams alayhi salam used to encourage them to speak to the ladies, to teach the ladies, which is something that the brothers of our communities can really learn from as well, to encourage the female members of the community to go out and teach the future mothers who will be raising the companions of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And inshallah, when the connection is better, we can really use this as a topic of discussion, where we can really delve into the lives of those ladies who were present in the time of the Imams and seek lessons from their examples, inshallah. It was a pleasure to hear. It was something that even I had never heard of before. And alhamdulillah, it's a topic that we can definitely take forward. So jazakumullah khair, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for that, and for all the effort that you've put into that, and to increase your tawfiqat, inshallah. To our viewers, inshallah, you have benefited from that talk. We do apologize about the connection, but all of the main points were clear, and alhamdulillah, we can all benefit from that. Next up, inshallah, is our Pride of Manchester. I call her my little angel. And this is Sister Fatima Al-Hakim, who will be enlightening us with her spoken word poetry. She writes most of this herself, so please welcome Sister Fatima Al-Hakim with the loudest of your salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Thank you so much.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Thank you to Sister Rebecca. What a lovely talk, and I'm sure everybody benefited from it. Inshallah, Allah blesses you for all your efforts. So today I've prepared 2 poems honoring our Imam. So inshallah, I'll start with the first one. So many live and die, leaving no trace of their existence. But our Imams' lives are defined by their resistance. We know 12 holy names and the Father that started this all. We know their names because when tyranny rose, slaves to it, they wouldn't fall. It started with Nabi Muhammad and with Ali in Badr. Then with Hassan, the night of Siffin. In Karbala, it was Imam Hussein and Imam Zain al-Abidin. With science and justice, Al-Baqir did rise. Al-Sadiq collated the ahadith and filtered out all of the lies. Al-Kadhim against Harun al-Rashid would face his demise. Al-Rida too would follow, refusing falsehood. Al-Jawad sided with truth, though against him his wife stood. Ali al-Hadi and al-Askari both lived to serve their Lord, and now we get to the Mahdi. May blessings upon him be poured. Al-Mahdi stands for all that his father stood. Often we say we wish to serve him, if only we could, yet we go against the very thing for which they did stand. How do we expect to offer a helping hand to our Imam if we live so far away from what he and his fathers taught? Let us not be like the Kufans who called for Imam Hussein and yet against him they fought. Our Imam, this gem that is hidden, is only obscured from our vision because of our sins. This ray of beauty, this aurora of light, the definition of hope embedded in all wishful letters that those lonely do write. He is the ark of salvation, and let's hope we are Noah's people, lucky enough to not be engulfed by this life's waves, rather enlightened by the nur of Al-Mahdi's rays. To each of our nights, he is the dawn. And yet from his beauty, because of our sins, the veils have been drawn. He and his fathers are a constellation of stars, forming the greatest path to follow. In fact, stars from them, light they borrow. He is the air that we breathe, that blows life into our lungs. He is the flowing river of hope that down our vessels runs. He is the king that leads even the greatest of kings, where his reign only brings the greatest of blessings. He is the courtyard of love, sited in the hearts of his believers. He is the echoing voice, promising to never leave us. And it's his name that is woven in the flags that rift over Aba Abdullah's shrine, spelling hasten, hasten, O guardian of time. Hasten, hasten, O guardian of time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So inshallah, my second poem I've written from the perspective of Az-Zahra alayhi salam, and it's as though she's speaking to us, the followers and the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now, this poem does touch upon historical events that are a little bit sad. They're more commonly heard in Muharram and Safar, but I think that it's a given with the Ahlul Bayt. Whenever we think of their happiness, we do think of their sadness just because of how significant it was. But inshallah, the meaning is still there. So it's as though Az-Zahra says to us, a trust that can't be broken, I trust with you. A trust so valuable that it has Khaybar, it has Mubahala, it has the breaking of the Kaaba for Ali shaking at its feet, and I entrust it with you. This trust that has the seal of Nubuwwah, it has the fragrance of Imama, it has the sermons of Zainab and the poetry of Kulthum etched at its core. It is the river of Kawthar pouring out, leaving those who taste it wanting more, and I entrust it with you. I am the daughter of Rasulullah, and my trust, it's been broken before. It broke with the burning of my door. It broke as they broke my rib. It broke with Muhsin's empty crib. It broke with Hussein. I trust them with Hussein. And now I give you the same trust with my Mahdi. The Kufans called for him. Their ink, it will bear witness against them. They pleaded for him, Al-Ajal, O son of Ali, come to our aid. And now I hear the same words echoing, Al-Ajal, O son of Ali, come be our shade. For my Hussein they prayed, as you do for my Mahdi. But you see, O children of Adam, my Hussein didn't know what was waiting for him. My Hussein, he traveled to them, but my Mahdi, he lives amongst you. When you call to him, he replies to you. When you ask him for aid, watch miracles unfold. When you raise your voices and send upon him salam, to you he too sends a salam. When you think of him in prayer, he too for you is praying. When you whisper your wishes to him, he hears what you are saying. By the grace of Allah, you've been gifted a treasure. And as his mother, Az-Zahra, it gives me great pleasure to see so many hearts attached to the guided one, like rays of light attached to the sun. My son is a walking scripture of guidance for those awake enough to be guided. He is the justice that is seen after every crime. He is the representation of the holy book, reflected in every line, in all poetry. He is every beautiful rhyme. He is the Mahdi, the guardian of time. He is the strength that is seen in Nainawa. He is the intercession of the night of power. He is the strength of Haydar, the victory of Khaybar. He is the final seal of Imama. And as his grandmother, Fatima, I entrust him with you. Inshallah, we never disappoint Zahra, and inshallah, we're all blessed with the honor of serving our Imam. Thank you so much.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Fatima. Every time I hear your poetry, I'm left speechless. Absolutely amazing. I get goosebumps every time you recite, and there is no doubt that Imam al-Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajah Sharif helps everyone who recites poetry in the name of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And in narrations it is said that anyone who recites verses for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is supported by the Ruh al-Quds himself. So these narrations are lights from Allah coming into your hearts, and I envy your minds that speak about the Fazail of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam so beautifully. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase you in your tawfiqat. You also are a pride of Manchester, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you even more to recite poetry in the name of the Ahlul Bayt. That is the end of today's broadcast. Brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair for joining us. We'd like to end with Dua al-Faraj. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه وارزق توءا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten the reappearance of our blessed Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, and make us of his sincere and true companions, inshallah. Please join us again tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Where we will be joined by Sayyid Mustafa Qazwini, Brother Ali Safdar, and Brother Ali Al-Hakim, inshallah, again in our third night of celebration, celebrating the birth anniversary of Imam Al-Hujjah, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. Thank you for joining. Do tune in tomorrow and join us live again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.